been initiated yet, but okay,
Pretty sure that's what it is.
that makes sense.
We were talking this morning about, so they don't usually in individual money, but it would be, it'll show up they targeted the area.
Got it.
Right.
And so far, I've seen 2 houses in town.
Okay.
But the other side of that also is that it's a secondary home.
Oh, wow.
The FEMA kid.
I've got the app, and it's just, it's really simple. You just put down the address, you don't use any key. You stay outside, take a picture, bring them in, shoot.
Gotcha.
Should take about 5 minutes per house.
Okay.
Nice.
Driving around, I think I should find 2 or 3 that may have been limited. But I've had one person call me every letter. And I see the house on South Lake Street.
Okay.
We locked out.
Yeah, yeah, down, it was amazing.
Yeah, you go right outside of town, Ballpark Road.
Yeah, you could look right at the ridge line on the weekend. It was like, holy cow, we're down here. And
Yeah. Alrighty. Call the meeting to order.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, roll call please, Jessica.
Lassiter.
Here.
Nemecheck.
Here.
Farrell. Moody.
Here.
Pritchard.
Here.
Quorum present.
I'll make a motion to excuse the absence of Commissioner Farrell.
Second.
Roll call whenever you get a moment, Jessica.
Pritchard.
Aye.
Lassiter.
Aye.
Nemecheck.
Aye.
Moody.
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right, moving on to the consent agenda. The purpose of the consent agenda is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent agenda be removed and placed as the last item under new business to receive full discussion. Such a request will automatically be respected. Is there any such request from staff members? From the public? From the commission? All right, I'll just make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Second. Roll call, please.
Lassiter.
Aye.
Nemecheck.
Aye.
Moody.
Aye.
Pritchard.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Moving on to agenda item number 4, citizens' comments. This is for non-agenda items. If you'd like to make public comment at this time, just please come to the podium, state your name and address. You'll be timed by the city clerk treasurer. She'll be taking time of 5 minutes. Once the alarm goes off, I'll just ask that you conclude your statement without cutting you off directly. Is there?
Good evening. I don't usually like to participate in meetings. I'm Jim Bauman, 1119 West Street, Boyne City. And I'm the editor of the Boyne Citizen. And that's the question I want to ask is 2 weeks from today at 4 o'clock in the afternoon is the deadline for turning in a petition to run for city commission. As far as I know, maybe the clerk can tell me, but I've been checking every week. Nobody has turned in a petition. Commissioner Lassiter has gratefully told us that he is not going to run for re-election, but Marty and Tim, we don't know yet. So I just kind of like to put you on the spot and ask you if you're going to run again. The community needs to know. It's only 2 weeks away. A couple of years ago in Harbor Springs, this happened. Everybody thought, oh, the incumbents are going to run again. Nobody ran. It was all write-in candidates. You know, the winner was like 32 to 31 or something. So I just like to ask if you're going to run. I think the community needs to know fairly soon. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
I'm Steve Persons. I live at 437 Poplar Street. They asked me the same question. If you don't rerun again, and there's only 2, we have no city manager. How are you going to determine that? If you guys are gone, there's only two people on the board. So how does that work? And I'd like to know if I get an answer before a month from now. It's happened when I've asked questions, had to wait a month and wait till I walk into a meeting to get an answer. That's all.
Alrighty. Steve, I can get you an answer, and anyone else that wants to try and answer it better than me, go for it. I just very familiar with that section of the charter right now because I've been reviewing that section in depth in the last couple of weeks. Because of the decision that I have to make personally, but basically if no one runs and the two incumbents end up not running as well, the city charter basically appoints that the city commission can appoint an individual. So that's my understanding as to what would happen. Anyone else have any input on that?
No, that's correct. Yep.
Alrighty, any other public comment? Anything electronically, Jessica? Yep, go ahead.
Just a question for you. I submitted a late memo to you guys about the North Point issues.
Yep.
Would you like me to come talk about it at public comment, or would you like to bring it up later, or are you just good with where we're at?
I'm gonna actually talk about on agenda item 6, city manager's report. I'm gonna talk about state of emergency, and I have a note to call on you for that one.
I just didn't want to miss the opportunity.
Yeah, yep, no, absolutely. Anyone else have, okay. Alrighty, moving on to agenda item 5, correspondence. This was a direct email that I received and I forwarded to Jessica. Did each commissioner receive a copy of it as well? Okay. Moving on to agenda item 6, city manager's report. I'm just gonna take this opportunity to basically just touch on some highlights of the state of emergency that our community found ourselves in this last week. Jessica, do you want to attempt to try and play that voicemail?
If you want me to, I will.
Yeah. This is the voicemail that I received, and I just want to start off this quick update for the community with this.
The director over here. I don't really have let my team know this, but I understand it's not there. I wanted to let you know that Boyd City, your director Wilson and all of your staff over there has really been stepping up helping over here for our disaster. So fuel, bringing oxygen, staff and trucks. Our friend has been over here at the all day, ran multiple calls with me. And we're just very grateful that you guys are helping us out. And that they're doing such a great job with staff and extra trucks, helping pull the transfers out. So we can empty out Charlie with the one on conversion. Phenomenal, that you guys have helped out and really have, and I'm sure that they'll continue, or they'll continue. So I just wanted to relay that to you, that they're doing a great job. And we appreciate it. Both our staff, got employees, National Guard, and other places to help, so pretty good staff here as well, everybody else, most of the moment. But we're managed, and I just wanted to relay that to you guys. So thanks again. Jesse, going back to Mark, teacher, 1, 2, 3.
So that was a voicemail that I received during the state of emergency from the director of EMS from Charlevoix. Just giving kudos to our EMS department and our director for the work that they did in helping the assisting neighboring communities. So I wanted the public to get that voicemail in addition to the commissioners to have access to that voicemail as well. Just jumping right into it. I just wanted to say, thanks to Sienna Wentz. She's one of those roles that operates behind the scene. The title of her role is she's the Charlevoix County Emergency Management Coordinator. She was basically the point of contact for all these municipalities within Charlevoix County, communicating directly with the governor's office, any operational issues, struggles, and or things that were popping up. Examples as to how she helped assist Boyne City through the state of emergency was, one example is the DPW director reached out to me with a priority issue with a tree on a power line. He put in a few calls to consumers, wasn't getting any responses. So I reached out to Sienna. She directly contacted a point of contact she had at consumers and made that a priority to get that tree removed. So they can get access down that roadway for the reasoning they needed to get through there. That's another example is the Starlink internet system, reaching out to them, letting them know that we did not have internet access for multiple days here at City Hall. in addition to not having access to our server. But ultimately, they were able to get a Starlink, which helped, many people in the community to come down to Boyne City. I've seen a lot of comments on Facebook, people asking, where's their internet access? So that was another thing that she did to help us. So I wanted to give kudos to them. Another thing she helped us with was obtaining oxygen tanks. Essentially, her and Chuck Vondra was able to get some oxygen tanks for our EMS department. So thank you to Sienna. Thank you to the EMS department, the police department, the fire department, and the staff, the administration team as well. The other thing I wanted to recover or just touch on real quick is just a donor list. So I asked Jacob, who's the deputy treasurer, to kind of just keep a rolling list of each individual entity that came in. So throughout the state of emergency, we had members of the community, whether they're individuals or businesses, and I just want to roll through this list to just give them kudos. It's Nicole Moblo, Fox's Pizza Den, Cheryl, BC Pizza, Bryanson Hosmer, American Spoon, Cape Council, Jenna Harthy, Boyne Chamber, and several other individuals that didn't check in with the front office that were dropping off pop, chips, foods, and other supplies. So thank you to all those individuals, whether they're an entity or an individual within the community. Outside of that, I just wanted to touch on a few different items that were in the staff report that were directly related to the state of emergency. The water department staff were called in on Saturday night. They worked overtime on Saturday and Sunday to ensure lift stations were fully functioning properly under the generation power. Water and sewer conditions returned to normal operation Sunday around 4 p.m. DPW repaired and assessed storm drainage concerns in various locations throughout the city. Sewer truck was utilized to assess possible blockage at Bay Street. Cleaned the basin with sewer truck on Lake Street. That is in front of Marathon. Rerouted water damage or drainage near Pleasant Ave that was causing flooding to a resident. Storm cleanup in general, down limbs and signage repairs. Ice from the storm, salt and sanded the roads. We have a third-party tree contractor that was dispatched by the DPW director and prioritized on several downed trees that were in the Woodland Road and Calling Street as well. Police department update. The PD made provisions early on in this incident to ensure that other first responders had access to fuel by using our fuel station on Fall Park Road. So overall, that's kind of the notes that I had to touch base. I can kind of give an update. Do you have anything else that you want to add, Chief Spate, as far as I'll let you hit on the rubbish, the compost site?
One of the things that was brought up at EOC meeting was that there is an extreme need for debris sites, and as Doug can tell you, our debris site at North Boyne took a major hit over the weekend. We had people from 3 different counties bringing stuff in, so we did end up shutting that down until we could figure out how to manage that. I don't know how Mr. Barney did it, but there is a tub grinder sitting up there right now, which we had a meeting about it this morning. He says, hey, it's in the budget. We got it. So the best thing we can do is get rid of it. It's either that or we have to burn it like everybody else is doing, but that's been problems in the past with some of the neighbors. So Doug is gonna get that going, should get that pile gone, and then we're planning on opening it back up to our city residents and the people. We have several landscapers and things like that that have paid money to use it. They're gonna have it staffed from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. to check that it is a city resident using it and it is somebody that's paid to use it, because there are 2 locations. One is at Monty's and one is by the Red Wing store in Otsego County, or is it Shawnee? Yeah, off Thumb Lake Road, that will take any debris from anybody from outside of town. Or they'll take it from people from inside of town too. No charge, you bring it there, drop it off, and they're using it. So we shouldn't have any additional cost to us that wasn't planned for. And if we didn't take that step, we would have
untold numbers of yards of stuff that we have to take care of, then we wouldn't know how to take care of it. So I know it's inconvenient. I got a couple calls from some of the contractors that like paid Friday to use it. It's just bear with us for a couple of days and figure out how we're gonna manage it, and that's the plan. Unless we hear anything else, that's the best we've come up with, and I think it's a fair plan, and it's right in line with what we had planned for the year. Take care of that problem and still have everybody get rid of their stuff.
Okay, I mean, questions are popping up. I guess I'll reach out to you after the meeting.
We have a side note update right off the press, I mean, right. 5 minutes ago.
Okay,
That gate's working,
I'm sorry,
that gate is working.
the front
It's
gate.
Fully functional. And as of tomorrow morning, we'll have a key code, passcode, we just gotta get boxed. But basically, that gate is now fully functional, has been designed, as of today. So.
It wasn't at like noon, so good job.
We're gonna have a working gate out there, and no one's gonna get in the back door either, so. That's gonna help us immensely.
well,
How was the back route?
What's that?
How was the back route contained?
Giant logs that contractors have brought over the
Yeah.
months. So there's no getting in with a trailer, and our number one culprit is dump trailers out there. So.
my only concern is. Good plan of action that's in place. My only concern is that we haven't hit like the busy rubbish time of the year yet. A lot of these contractors are taking stuff up there from like Memorial Weekend up until, Labor Day weekend. So we still have our busiest time of the year still to come.
Yeah.
And we already have the grub time grinder up here. We're gonna go through all of that, and then we're gonna see, our busy summer pile back up.
Now, a working gate,
Okay,
what you're gonna see, one or two things. Contractors that pay and bring stuff, that's fine. And then you're gonna have 7 or so on the list that already have paid. I foresee us possibly, hopefully being able to manage and maintain a much better brush pile in the near future.
Doug, there will be no three. I mean, I could say the three of us would be very happy with the amount of conversations we've had about access and that compost pile. So that would
What
be
they did in the
phenomenal.
past is they burned it because it wasn't a lot. You didn't have enough to cover an entire cold storage building out there. Now,
Right.
we have a lot out there, but it's not as much as what we had like over a year and a half ago when I had this brush tub grinder running before.
Right.
So I think they're gonna be done in days, not
Okay.
weeks. This company, and we're gonna have no brush pile. We're gonna start new. And we have money budgeted for going into next year, starting May 1st.
Yep.
So it'll be a way smaller pile that we stay up on, or we never even have to get a brush tub grinder again.
Okay. Can you remember off the top of your head, because it was budgeted, and I can look real quick, but what was the figure, rough estimate?
15,000.
How many?
How much?
15.
15,000? Okay.
And then the
It's what we paid. We that I know of, I checked with Jacob prior to this meeting a couple weeks ago. So, but we budgeted around 30. So,
Right.
We did.
I mean, I don't know, if they just didn't, I mean, I tried to reach out to Bedrock to say, hey, we still owe you. They haven't responded back.
Perfect. I'll take the 15,000 in savings.
Yeah.
I share the same concern, and that basically we got taken advantage of. And I think all it did was bring home what's been going on for a very long time. So I'm glad we've got the back gate closed down, and I really appreciate the back entrance, if you will, the back way in. And we have the front gate working. It's gonna be staffed from 10 to 3. And I'm gathering that they'll have a current list of contractors that pay. We have another category that falls into the gray area, and then that's gonna be the tough part. As a resident, basic resident, I might take a trailer full up once a month.
Mhm.
We have entrepreneurs, God bless them, that are doing individual truckloads and could pass as residential. So I'm not sure how we're gonna handle
How
that.
could they pass?
They're gonna show a residence license. So the point being is there'll be multiple trips, more than what a normal resident would bring in. And that's just gonna be something to work our way through.
You're always gonna have somebody circumvent the system a little bit, but I think what we have now is going to cut it back so much that it's going to make a major difference. There's something else that popped up that I thought of. Oh. I didn't get to see it, but when Darcy came in, I think it was Monday,
And, person,
all the brush that had been dropped off was all the way up by the gate and you couldn't have put any more in there if you wanted to. So,
other than us.
there has been.
I was there Sunday after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I followed the truck there from Loon.
Is there
Sunday.
a limit on diameter of the size of?
Correctly not, if there is, it's not on that long phone book worth reading of stuff, people keep ignoring.
I think there is.
There might be on that.
Yeah.
stuff, but it's not.
It's, I read it once and I think there is a limit, but it has never been enforced. I remember what it was. We do have somebody that will take the clippings or the chips. We just have to get it. You said Scornia's Farm
Yeah,
and the Rod and Gun Club in Charlotte will take them.
Okay.
So,
we have 2 locations, big chip.
Yep.
We're just doing our leisure.
When
Let's
you
hope-
talk to Sienna, because I know, sorry, but I know she was looking to get a burn permit. That's not a viable option. But did she talk about potential expense reimbursement through the state?
yes, we can burn it.
We
So,
can.
Yep. I think East Jordan and Charlotte are burning theirs currently.
Okay.
The problem we had, if I remember correctly, is we have residents that are just to the east. which
Right.
The wind always blows, that have COP and are on oxygen. They complained about it. And this is why we went
This route.
this route from the best of my remembrance. We did talk about getting reimbursed for like the tub grinder and stuff like that. I talked with the state EOC guy. He says unless you have it manned and you are writing down who's bringing it in from where, you will not get reimbursed.
Okay.
So we would have to sit there and write down your address. And he said they want GPS coordinates where it comes from. I think an address would be fine. But they want to track in which townships, which counties and where they're all coming from. We have no idea. I know there's some that came from Vanderbilt
Right.
and further away, Sheboygan County. But I can't right now say where it came from. So
Okay.
That's
we
one,
will most likely not be reimbursed for that.
Okay.
because there's a disease issue as well, which is even, which is bad on top of it, but we got taken advantage of. So back on the size of the monster pieces I've seen up there, are they required to locate those in an area? So that if they someday could be sold and people run out of all the trees that fell down? Because right now that falls on us with our payloaders to move everything around.
Yeah. Separate stuff, you can't tub grinder, it's gonna have to be a humongous piece of wood, because the tub grinder is meant for trees, basically.
No, but I mean, in a day-to-day basis, the way that that's been maintained is, people just drop them off and then our labor, our DPW guys are the ones that are ending up.
Yeah.
And those are for commercial guys, I
Yeah.
mean, primarily. So,
Yeah, from what I know, people come drop stuff off, these guys sort it out. I mean, you've got guys that are dropping stuff off, they're not supposed to anyway, so they're not gonna even sort it. So. It's an interesting dilemma up there.
well, thank you for all the progress.
Yeah.
Well,
For at
currently,
least shutting it
we're
down.
working on the time, whatever time we program it to, for that gate to close, it will close. So,
And we don't have a time frame that we're going to be able to keep it manned. That was a short stop fix we came up with, so we'll have to get with Doug and you guys and discuss how that moves forward, but it's the process we all came up with this morning and.
Well, I appreciate you guys being proactive and coming up with a strong plan of action because it has been, and it's a scenario where we're subsidizing it out of the taxpayers and we're definitely getting taken advantage of, which means the taxpayers are getting taken advantage of. And I hate pulling more money and more money out of the general fund, knowing that it's a bleeding scenario. So I appreciate the proactiveness. So thank you.
One question to help, should we be providing a windshield sticker? Or some sort of identification? That's a visual, because to your point about the manning, that's, I mean,
Well, then that gets into you don't have a car or you don't have a truck and I come over and let you borrow my truck and you don't have a sticker now. What they're gonna be doing right now is they're gonna be asking for people's IDs. And if they come up and it says West Bloomfield, but I own 123 North Park Street, they're gonna call Kyle. He has that map up. He's gonna hit it and say, hey, this is the people that own it. Having a windshield sticker.
Kevin, I was primarily thinking of the contractors, basically for the fee paying people, but
For the fee paying peoples, from what I've seen from the letters we get every time it gets updated. Some of them expire and don't pay, and then they do pay. So I think it's easier just for the person at the gate to have that list and look at the side of the truck.
well, one of the things that we did to facilitate the management is that it won't be just a rolling fee payment. We agreed that the fee payment is due on May 1st, I believe, was what was agreed to,
Yes.
running through April 30th of the following
Okay.
year. So given where we sit in this month, I don't think it would be any big deal to go ahead and grant them, the extra few weeks, but it will be a standard
Okay.
May 1st date. So that they get handed a sticker or something that's identifiable.
And great points. I think we're getting off on a tangent.
Right.
It wasn't what we're discussing tonight. This was the emergency management aspect. We got the tub grinder in very short form and for actually less than we've got it before. So that was great. And it was unprecedented. I mean, it was just, this exacerbated the situation up there for sure. And now, I'm happy that the tub grinder is did it get here today?
It's sitting up there right now.
That's when he said it was gonna be coming. So so I'm happy that, it got there and this will get cleaned up and then we can, form a plan of action going forward. But I agree with you, Chief, that it normally doesn't, if we're diligent with it, which we haven't been, it's not gonna get used. So, and it's not the locals coming in with their, tiny trailer with a few branches on it and stuff like that. I mean, I took 2 pickups up there, but that was because I didn't try to, abuse my truck and cram everything that I possibly could in there, so it was two half loads and it was all puny, stupid, crappy little stuff. And, just picking up the yard. So it's, again, we got time to talk about it, where we want to go with this. And I don't think tonight was the night to do that.
Yeah. Last thing, when is it gonna be opened up again?
Speed that up with a working gate.
Yeah, so one thing we need to do is see when they use the tub grinder. Last time I saw the tub grinder run, there's sticks that fly out like that big. And we don't want to have people walking up next to it while it's going on. If this one works differently and things aren't flying out of it, or it's in a safe spot, we can have people go dump someplace else. We'll open it up as soon as while they're grinding for the next couple of days.
Okay,
If not, we'll wait till they're done grinding and then open it up.
perfect.
So
Jessica, could you get with Jacob and ask him to do a Facebook post of those additional sites that people could take rubbish to?
I'll give you the address.
Between now and ours opening up. So any city resident and or people within the area that were using and abusing us can take it to those additional sites while ours is closed.
And I have cards made up for whoever is at the DPW gate that telling people they can't come in. It has the 2 sites with the address. You can just hand them a piece of paper that says you're at places to go.
Perfect, awesome, appreciate it.
Great.
Hey, go ahead. Yep.
It's all yours.
Richard Wright, 920 Edmund Street, Wayne City. Forgive me, I'm hearing impaired and the acoustics in here doesn't work well with my ears. So if I missed the crux of the conversation, then I'll sit down real quick. I won't take too much of anybody's time. However, I was a previous member of the Airport Advisory Board, and at one point I was working to fill some precipitously low areas at the airport. And if I understand the crux of the problem is that the DPW site is becoming full of trees and rubbish from the recent ice storm. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. There's an area that was scalped out within the runway clear zone, just off to the side, the north side of the runway. Runway runs east and west. That I tried to get filled with the sand that when they built the Daifuku plant, there's all kinds of, there was I think it was 11,000 yards of sand. Unfortunately, due to non-support, I was unable to get that sand in these low spots. An offer that you may wish to consider, there's two low spots. There's one parallel to the runway that could be filled in with trees. It would have to be topped over with sand and dirt and whatever. But that's supposed to be cleared anyway. Right now, if you had an aircraft landing and it diverges off the runway, it goes down in that. It would be safer to have that flat. Now, we're not in violation, One City. However, it makes it safer for the airport and certainly for the aviators. There's also another area that is also low. And the idea on that, it kind of runs northeast, southwest. But the idea was, instead of having a parallel taxiway to the runway someday, we would develop hangars as people want to build, and they would pave, we would have the person that wants to build a hangar pave from where the pavement stops down to where the new hangar will go. Well, the idea is to fill in that low spot so it would be conducive to build hangars. So that's even farther off. That doesn't present a threat to aviation. However, it does offer a solution for all this detritus from the storms to be filled in there. And eventually, as we get more dirt and loose fill to go on top of all these branches and logs, it would be an easy way to solve your problem and solve some of the airport problems. Just saying.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Richard.
Doug, can you notate that in case we're trying to find a space to put chips?
I would donate my time to help oversee this, but I would want to talk to the commission offline and get a plan of where you would want that to go. And the caveat was that just we're not going to dump and have a big hill there.
Right.
But if we spread it out, it solves your problem and it solves some airport problem. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment on agenda item 7 before moving on? Yep.
You guys aware that the avalanche trail is
Closed, yeah.
Was that a general comment for 7, all items under 7? Was that your request or just the staff report?
I would just doing the state of emergency update is all I was doing, and then but if the commission has got something else.
So are we at 7?
Yeah, yep, if you have some. Yep.
Okay, just a quick comment, on 7B Parks and Rec, I just want to highlight there was a request for city commission input that we need to take as an action item. And also on the emergency, the Rivermouth Pump House, the emergency, as Doug mentioned, the emergency generator did not kick on.
Automatically,
And that needs to be addressed because, oh, it's all better now.
today. That was marked out, the issue. It's not put in.
I'm sorry?
Maybe the issue was it was not put in auto. There's a manual auto feature on the controller, both the automatic transfer switch and on the generator set. And we just had a bunch of maintenance done with people who have done a lot of maintenance there, so. Our guys didn't know what to even look for, but now they do, so we have a pretty good meeting there. And next week, we're slating to do a test two times, probably around 6 in the morning, we're gonna start 6:30. We're gonna do a simulated power outage back to back twice to make sure that we're 100% certain we know that it's gonna work the next power outage we get. So, yeah, we got it.
Are there what I'm gonna call employee operating instructions?
Not yet, but there will be. Very simple procedure for what our guy who figured it out, who was the guy called operator. We'll put something there, what to look for one, there's lights on there to say if it's not in auto, put it in auto and it will work. So it wasn't in auto, it was in manual.
Anything else? Jessica, can you get the request from the Parks and Rec Commission of the city commission in a formal structure and send off to each commissioner? So we know what they're requesting from us. And then it will probably be an actual agenda topic at the next commission meeting, depending on what the request is. Moving on, any other commissioner have anything else for agenda item 7? Already, any public comments in regards to agenda item 7? Already moving on to agenda item 8A, city manager vacancy, continued discussion. Notes. So I will start this off like I do with every other agenda topic. Ultimately, it's a rolling item, it's old business. We'll have a discussion amongst the city commission. I'll open it up to the public first for any public comment. If you have any public comment on this agenda item, just come to the podium, state your name, address, and you're limited to 5 minutes. Anything electronically, Jessica? Okay, so I'm going to close public comment for agenda item 8A and then just go right to the board for deliberation then. Before I start with board deliberation, I'm just going to touch on some talking points and expectations that we need to execute on. We need to develop a candidate pool out of all the applicants that we have in front of us. Developing this candidate pool is basically going to come as a common denominator or a consensus from the commission. Once that is established, we will have to establish next steps and basically developing interview questions. We can start with an expectation, and as we deliberate, each of you could talk on how many questions you think would be appropriate. I would suggest starting at a starting point of about 25 questions, and I would make a suggestion that these questions are behavioral based questions to get the most value out of the candidates. What I would say is between now and Friday, each commissioner that wants to have certain questions, included in this interview process, turn those in to Jessica. She'll be collecting all those questions. And then 2 commissioners can meet and call the questions, so to speak, down if the commission is open to that. I would make myself available for that. Any other commissioner that wants to make themselves available for that, just let it be known during deliberation. If you would be interested in calling those down, what I would envision is I made myself available on Friday to try and meet with another commissioner to call down all those questions down to a certain number that we agree on. And then hopefully moving on with next steps is essentially coming up with a timeline to conduct interviews. I asked Jessica before the meeting started if next week would be sufficient on an operational standpoint on their schedule without impacting them too much. She said that nothing comes up, that nothing's coming to mind so far, and that next week would be doable for them. I would have to look at availability for next week, but I would find a time and day to make myself available. If another commissioner could do so, or well, all of us would have to do so for that interview process. If next week isn't possible, then by all means, I would really hope we can get availability structured for the week after, because we have to really move forward on this interim, because it's important. Schedule interviews for next year in person next week. Just 2 expectation questions. So outside of those behavioral based questions, there's just some expectation questions that I think need to be considered, suggestions that I'm kind of throwing out there. is salary. I know we have these proposals in front of us. The salary structure is a little funky with some of them because it's tiered, so to speak, for one or two of them, and it's not so straightforward. I would hope that if we're having an in-person interview with candidates, we have a very defined expectation on salary structure, days per week. My expectation is hopefully they're here 5 days a week, so to speak, 40 hours a week. I know that is flexible in some of these proposals, so that would be some baseline expectation questions that would be in addition to those behavioral based questions. So that's kind of my talking points on this. I'll go to each one of you for deliberation at this point. I'll just start with Commissioner Pritchard.
So if I heard you correctly, in your vision that we agree on a pool tonight,
Correct.
to my knowledge, unless I've got something wrong, there are, just let's clarify, Jeffrey Thornton, Ted Andrzejewski,
Yes.
and Chris Brown.
Yes.
It wasn't clear to me.
Did you get Nate as well?
Well, I did not include Nate because this is a question of understanding because it wasn't clear to me whether, because he's put in a recruiting proposal as well.
Right.
And how the mechanics of that would work, but just assuming for the next 10 minutes that Nate does want to be considered for interim, even though he's made it clear that it's only a part-time and he's going to be running his recruiting business. It's only have the three.
Yes.
And it isn't a very deep pool at this moment. And so I guess this is, to me, is the balance of the sense of urgency. You know, we really do need to move forward, but we also want to make sure that when we have somebody there for 4 months, it's the right person. So I'd like to speak a little bit, not to me anyway, but I think we need to address that in trying to attract, engage other candidates. And I know that there's been something posted, but I don't know if it's going to get down to something a little more hands-on and nitty-gritty. I think I mentioned to you before that when I was going through the due diligence on the original set, came across some folks that it might be an inquiry, like us playing recruiter, if you will. Are you available? Are you interested? Is this something that you'd be wanting to do? But fundamentally, I don't think we have a large enough pool. The interview questions, what I understood you to say is you would like us to ask the same questions of each candidate.
Correct.
And the only comment I would make to that, I agree in principle, but I would like for there to be some flexibility at the end or somewhere in there, because every person's background is a little bit different, and then there maybe need to be a little more ad hoc at one point. And then again, the timeline, I will do everything I can to support and make myself available to move as quickly as possible, but I don't think our pool is big enough. I'm happy to help on Friday. No one else is available.
Okay. Anything else?
I don't think was there any thought of disqualifying any of the current candidates?
So one thing that I need to say is Jessica and I were on a conference call with Nate. Probably maybe Friday before the state of emergency happened, like all the days are blending for the last 2 weeks at this point. It was a quick 10-15 minute call. I just asked her to be on it so she could help hold me accountable to a summary of the call, so to speak, to the commission. And basically the call was, he has a big trip coming up. If he was selected as interim manager, basically it would be scenario where he would be here for part of it, and then another individual who's identified in the proposal that they provided, which was Brock, and Mr. Brock would be here when Nate was absent, so to speak, on this trip. So it would be a dual role with two individuals stepping in as interim manager, and it was a similar model to Traverse City. So I'm just throwing that out there for point of understanding, not for advocacy purposes, just a summary of what that conversation looked like, because he sent an email to Jessica when she sent out, all the requests for resumes and that. He sent an email back directly and asked if I had 10 minutes to talk on the phone real quick. So I set that conference call up with Jessica. Is that a pretty good, accurate summary of what that call looked like? Okay. So, yeah, I would say tonight, if there is an individual that you have, or individual, or, entity, whatever it may be, out of the 4 proposals we have in front of us right now, I would say, speak and say, I'm in favor of X, Y, and Z, and not in favor of A, B, and C. To give us, the foundation of establishing this candidate pool that we're going to interview. In regard to the questions, there should be flexibility per individual. I agree with that, but I want some type of structure that is consistent from candidate to candidate, just for liability, so to speak. From my experience, we need to be somewhat consistent and have some type of model to work from. And we can deviate from that as long as, and at that point in time, we'll all be part of that process. So the consensus could lead us through that deviation process, if and when we get there. What was anything else? Is timeline, or not timeline, but candidate? I mean, I wish we were looking at 7 or 8 people. Unfortunately, we're not. Before I would say we need to redesign our approach and trying to find additional individuals. I want to see if one out of these 4 are even a viable option.
So I think that it's, with another week and more data with the structured questions, I withhold on dismissing anyone at this point.
Okay. Commissioner Marty?
Yeah, so I'm in agreement with you, Sandy, that we had, I think the 3 are very viable. That we have, barring the one that mainly is trying to sell us a proposal. So that's where my interest is, with Ted, Jeff, and Chris. And I think those are, I think all 3 of them are very viable. I think an interview process, if at the end of that interview process, we don't like any of the 3, then that's absolutely fine. But I think this is your interim, and we're not looking for the end result. We're looking for someone for the interim right now. And I think all 3 of those candidates could fill that bill very easily. The interview questions, that's exactly how I've always done it, from, again, the school board aspect. And yes, you always have the closing, okay, Mr. Jones, do you have anything more to add? Anybody on the board have anything more to add, Mr. Jones? So that's where you can deviate and get down a little bit off of the standard ones. But I think having a standard questionnaire to be asked by the commission is exactly the way to go. And as far as as far as the interview questions, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that that's how we have to do it, and I'm more than happy. I mean, if you and Sandy, want to go over the interview questions, I'm fine with that. I'm happy to go over them, if you need help. Again, my suggestion is that we all submit questions and then have them by Friday. And I think typically, I don't think you want more than 25, because you're going to bog down the whole, the whole interview process. So
I'm happy to defer to your experience. You've been through it way more, so. I'm happy to defer to you, Tim, that's fine. As you wish.
But other than that, again, I believe we have three, good candidates to interview for the interim. Obviously we had 6, 3 of them waited themselves out because they were sales pitches, so. Go with the candidate that wants to be here and wants to do the job, in my mind.
So you support, the questionnaire. What about next week as far as interviewing? You support that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
but next Tuesday, whatever works for this commission. I don't know when Bob's gonna be back. So
It's 2 weeks.
2 weeks, okay.
Okay, so 4 and 3, you have an interest in I'm developing the candidate
Oh,
pool consensus.
yeah.
You want to potentially interview all 4 next week is an accurate statement, right? You want to interview 3 out of the 4 next week.
Yeah, because I don't see Nate as, I just think it's, again, I don't want to get into the, he's been more, even in his pitch, it's, I have a team, and no, we're not looking for a team. We're looking for, someone to be here.
Okay.
And so I don't, I think you're looking for an interim leader, not an interim team. Team. We have a team. It starts with Jess and goes, to Doug and Chief, and we got the team. We need the team leader.
Okay. So you support the 3?
That could.
Okay. Commissioner Lassiter?
I also support the 3, the Jeff, Ted, and Chris.
Okay.
And one thing I found real helpful is on the next agenda item, whoever put the spreadsheet, I guess if you call it, together, that was very, very helpful. And I think if whoever did that, we could do the same for these 3 guys, that would be. I think
Maybe. I've got the running
did that?
start. And it's, most of it's there, so
You did
I'll
that?
just do it again.
that was very helpful.
And then
Okay. That's
Perfect. Do you support 2 commissioners meeting on Friday, calling down, questionnaires? Okay.
It makes sense.
So we have our candidate pool is gonna be 3 individuals at this point. The consensus was established with that. Next week, do you support meeting potentially next week to do interviews?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a consensus there as well. Anything else? What was that?
Dave, what's that a day?
Yeah, I got my availability book right now. If we want to look at next week dates. Next week starts on April 14th. I'm supposed to be steelhead fishing all week, but I can't because of my shoulder. So I'm available all next week except for PT.
the Tuesday is the Chamber Taste of Boyne. Is that the business? No, that's not the business expo, is it? Yes?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, the
Yeah,
15th.
The 15th is the business expo.
Yeah.
And beyond that, you got Main Street Org Committee on Monday. That may not interfere. Looks like it's a good week.
Wednesday. 16th.
I'm available.
Should we set 2 dates? Because we don't know about our candidates.
Yeah. I mean, let's set a primary date and time and then come up with a backup one. Are you good on the 16th?
Yeah, I'm good on the 16th.
Are you?
I'm good on the 15th, 16th, 14th wasn't good for me, but.
Okay. The only thing I have on the 14th is a dental appointment. And then 1 PM PT appointment. I do have it planned to go to the Chamber Expo. Other than that, I'm available. So let's pick the 16th. Are you available the 16th, Lassiter?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Anyone want to throw out a time?
Later the better for me.
I'm sorry?
Later the better for me.
So shoot for 1 of the afternoon appointments.
What I envision timeline wise, I'm gonna just throw it out there, probably an hour.
Mhm.
Per candidate.
Yep.
With an expectation that it's probably gonna be realistically an hour and 15 minutes. Then, you know, transition time from candidate to candidate. So that would rack up to about 4 hours in total. That's what we're looking at.
Do it start at noon? Or 1?
I'm
Noon work for you, George?
Let's do one.
one.
Backup date?
Yeah, backup date. I am good on the 17th except for a 11:15 PT appointment. And that's about an hour. Outside of that, I'm good. So
Oh, right here, Jeff.
just across.
Oh,
the
right here.
street.
Oh, okay. Um,
You wanna shoot for 3 or 4, George? Are you gonna be able to do a second day?
Yeah, again, later on would be 3 or 4 would be better, yeah. On the second day.
And if we wanted to, we could potentially do 2 and 2. So we could, you know, on the 16th, start at 2
are we doing
p.m.
four? Are we doing three?
Sorry, 1 and 2.
Well, yeah.
I think our candidates may have lives.
Right,
And we
exactly.
try and keep them bunched together, but offer 2 scenarios.
Yep.
Okay.
1 to 5 on the 16th and whatever, 3 to 6 on the 17th.
Yeah, 3 to 6 on the 17th work for you?
Yes, sir.
Work for you?
Yep.
Alrighty, so I'm gonna mark off 3 to 6 p.m. on the 17th. And then we all have 1 to 5 p.m. marked off on the 16th, right?
Yes, sir.
Alrighty. Jessica, that help you out?
Is your goal to try to do them all on the first day though?
Yes, ideally, yep. We would love to do it all on the first day. What did we say on the 17th? 3 p.m.
3 to 6.
3 to 6.
If I'm not mistaken, we have a candidate in the audience.
I did not know.
I was invited.
Great.
Okay. What's your last name?
Jeff Thornton.
Okay, Thornton.
Well, Jeff, what days work for you?
You might be here.
We'll start there.
Either one. My life has been hectic. I have a home in Alpena, so I've been over.
Oh, jeez.
Working the emergency in Alpena and Crestfield County for the last several days and pretty tired. My arms are sore from chainsaws and
Yeah.
been crazy. We got hit really hard.
Yeah.
So I think you would do.
Okay. Sounds good. Alrighty, so we got our dates and times selected. We basically have candidate pool selected. I just want to look at my notes real quick. All right, so Moody, do you want to meet on Friday with Commissioner Pritchard? I can step down. I have no problem with that. Okay, you two want to meet on Friday then?
Can do it.
Alrighty, I'll let you guys come up with the time and all that on Friday.
Morning.
But the expectation for all of us commissioners is to have those questions turned in.
Yep.
Jessica, do you mind just sending an email to Commissioner Farrell and let him know that we would like him to send any questions in between now and Friday?
He's
But
on, so I'm sure.
he might be online because I just received a text. Yes, listening. And
Oh yeah, he's on.
he's available on 4/16. He is on call for the 17th.
Okay. So the first day, hopefully. Perfect. All right, anything else that we need to address on agenda item 8A before we move on to 8A2? Alrighty, I'm gonna take us to the actual full-time city manager executive search proposals. This memo, thank you, Pritchard, for the Excel sheet. That is helpful. Basically just reviewing note, well, I'll go to the public first. Any public comment in regards to the executive search proposals?
To be clear, this is Jen's work.
It is
This
Jen's
is
work.
Jen's work. It's not mine. No, the one I'm referring to is the one for the interim candidate.
Yeah.
I didn't get around to this, and so This
Please
is
tell
Jen's
Jen,
work.
thank you. Yeah. I wasn't gonna say it until someone pointed at you.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so
Comment. I consider doing it yourself.
we have, yep. Yeah.
Didn't think the optics would look good. There's some real
There's unique
synergies.
optics.
The synergies would be great. But
So any public comment on the executive search proposals? Anything electronically? Alrighty, so before we go to board deliberation, basically, just ask yourself, are you ready to pick a firm tonight? I don't think we're there, so what I would say is, if you're not ready to pick a firm tonight, is think of what firm you have an interest in having a proposal presented to. And the expectation is potentially us, well, most likely us hopefully picking a firm by the next noon meeting, but not by the next noon meeting, but if we have an interest in having proposals presented at the next noon meeting, that happens at that point in time. And then after that meeting, hopefully we've had enough time to digest the material, the proposals. And we'll be ready to go through that selection process with a firm. So if no one's interested in actually making a selection tonight on a firm, I would say just speak on what firms you have an interest in having a presentation provided at the next noon meeting. And if you have something or envisioning something entirely different, then just speak about it when we go through deliberation. Me personally, the way I've gone through the proposals, I could say right now, the one that is kind of sitting above all the rest for me is MML. Other than that, I would say Pivot is second, is how I've numbered it. So those would be two individuals. Well, we've already had the one proposal, so MML, I'm not opposed to hearing a proposal from one of the other two. I'd be open to it. I do have an interest in having a proposal from Pivot potentially at the next noon meeting if there's a consensus there. Commissioner Moody?
Yeah, there were some, decent firms by far, but the way that I looked at it in comparing them all up, I still think MML is the one that makes the most sense. I believe that when we would end up with a interim candidate, I think that would be part of the process in my mind. Where the MML I think makes the most sense is most of the other firms that put in were not all government driven. I mean, they're executive searches, for you name it, Daifuku, stamping plant, IMI. All great firms, all great aspects, but not completely government oriented. And I think much like again, going through 4 different searches on the school board, it was very pertinent to have the school board association, of superintendents, which is basically MML for the schools. And that was how we did our searches. And I still believe that even today, if they were to do a search on the school board, it's the best way to go. Because you're pulling from the candidate aspects that are looking for the government roles, and you're not digging through people that really aren't going to be the fit that you need for just all aspects of it, government grants and everything. So that's my viewpoint on it. Nothing against the other firms that we have that have submitted proposals, but and in looking through all of them, there was actually a couple of them that said that they had done school searches as well. But I think we have, we're members. We have the gift of being able to do the MML. I think it's a great program. I think it's where we ended up with Mr. Thornton from. So I think that's something to be said right there. So that's the way I see it playing out is that this would that we would do this process with an interim and through MNL personally for myself.
Commissioner Lassiter.
Yeah, I would definitely be interested in hearing from Pivot and MML also.
Anyone else?
Nope.
Well, I'm kind of biased. I believe that the operation of a city is not that. The difference between private business and the city is you have the government regulations and procedures and constraints. But the nuts and bolts of it is the same. We're looking for a CEO to run a $24 million operation. So I personally don't have the bias about only dealing with a recruiter that is only in the government sector, for me personally. There's so many transferable skills that to me that can come into play. So I personally am okay with the broader backgrounds. I just wanted to mention also, we had one more that came in from Yo and Yo. That isn't even, there was no time for that. And they would not fall into the government realm either. I can agree with MML. I guess I would also like to understand perhaps a little bit more about Gainzer's time away. I believe he's got a very dynamic, very in-depth proposal. And I would want to understand his time commitment. And because I agree totally that we want one guy that's going to be our go-to person. And if he goes away on vacation and he's going to say, okay, Marty, you're it. That's just for the 2 weeks, and it goes back to the recruiter. So I would be interested in hearing from them as well.
The double haul solutions.
Yeah, but I guess if you could, I mean, you can enlighten more, because there's some mealy mouths. To Marty's point, there's a lot of we's in there, and so I guess, can you enlighten us any more on your conversation that you had about that aspect?
He was in the middle of travel, and I don't know what I was doing, but it was like a spur of the moment thing. And it was like, hey, an email just came in. Do you got 10 minutes, Tim? I was like, yep. And then I checked in with Jessica. She had 10 minutes. And he was in the middle of New York, I think it was, where he was traveling at that point in time. The only concern I have about his proposal specifically is just the stacking of fees, so to speak. And it's not, and that's what I really love in the MML proposal. It's like, here's the cost, this is everything that's included. Where, professional fees here, it's 15 of the 21,000, advertising, job board sites up to 2,500. Background investigation, yes, 400 each. If we have 8 candidates, 400 times 8. I just see an uncontrollable fee structure potentially with some of them. So am I open to having a proposal and asking those questions directly to Nate and or whoever the representation is that's going to be going over the proposal? Absolutely. I would be more than willing to have have that proposal and have that Q and A, so to speak, or that conversation. But looking at it from the spreadsheet aspect, that's my only concern is the uncontrollable expense side to one or two of these proposals here.
I did not do the same deep dive that I did on the other.
Yeah.
And because I ran into the same things as I was going through that and some of the data that didn't make it to Jen's sheet. You know, how many visits
Right.
and when does the other kick in, you know, because the rates are all over the place from to get to a place where we understand the cost, the true costs or potential true costs and, you know, the benefit that's going to come from that. And, you know, the per hour rates, whether the advertising was in or out, how many hours they're willing to do in meetings. I think, you know, that's the hard part. It isn't entirely clear. There were several of them that said actually that the background check is another $800 or whatever, and it's not in there. So we got a good starting place here, but I think for me personally, it was more understanding. Maybe not as an executive recruiter, it wouldn't manage as much. It would matter as more if he was an interim manager. If he were the lead recruiter, he's going to make it happen because this is his new business.
Right.
So it may not matter that he's gone.
Right.
You know, if he's got a staff that's going to step in. I would be curious to hear from.
Yeah, having a team in that.
Okay.
aspect.
We got one here, we have one here. Marty, is that all you had, Commissioner? Pritchett?
Yes.
Did you go already?
Yeah.
So every single one of you guys went?
Mhm.
Perfect. I'm tired. So what is our consensus? Marty, who do you have as far as proposals that you want to hear at the next meeting?
I'm fine with the three. I just said that you know, again, you already heard my opinion on the MML, so. Pivot was the first one that sent anything to us before we even talked about anything.
Right.
And then, you know, double. So
Do we want to have MML again?
we don't need to, I don't believe that we need to have MML again. We've already had them do their presentation.
As you wish.
I mean, I don't have an interest in hearing from Jerry again, do you?
No.
But I would base it off from the time and the conversations I had with them down there, so me personally, but I'm not gonna eliminate that opportunity.
Yeah, there may be some additional follow-up questions. So.
Well, the other point, this will be a public
Mhm.
and open session.
Right.
And some of the folks may not, in the community may not have been aware. And they were attended it, the last meeting, so. I think it would be useful.
I'm not opposed to it, so the consensus is we're gonna move forward with seeking proposals from the MML, Pivot, and Double Hall Solutions. Anyone else have any other interest in seeing a proposal from NLI or NGT?
Hang on a minute.
Yep. Or the Euro one that came in over the weekend, right? That's the one that I forwarded to you yesterday. Was it yesterday I swung in here to pick up?
It was sent to only you, no, not to staff.
Did you
sorry?
send- It was sent to only me.
Well, it was sent to all the commissioners.
We
but no
all
staff.
got
Okay, okay.
We all got it. I just printed the financials of it. They're in line. They're like MML in that they have cafeteria level of services.
Mhm.
So,
Would we, I mean, I would be interested in seeing a proposal from them, I guess. Anyone else want to see a proposal or have a proposal from Yarrow? What is it? Yarrow?
YEO and YEO, yo and yo,
What's there to look at it?
yo and yo. Advisory, HR advisory services.
Okay.
I would support that.
Okay, anyone else?
Yeah.
You would? Okay, would you want?
Oh, I'm not gonna argue with it. No,
Okay.
that's fine.
So there's the four. of
No,
them.
I don't have, we can interview as many as you want.
This is a big deal, so, you know, it's,
So, can you have Jen or whoever you want to choose from your staff reach out to those four different firms and ask them to make themselves available on that noon meeting? And if they're not, to let us know if there is no availability. And then we'll just react from there. Any commissioner have any other talking points or topics they want to discuss on 8A2? Alrighty, I'm gonna move on then. To agenda item 9A, budget adoption. This is my fourth year in the budget process with the city of Boyne City, and by far my most exciting year so far. Great. Before we get going through this material, I just quick threw a memo summary together that I asked Jessica to send out to all of the commissioners. I'm just gonna read it real quick. Dear residents of Boyne City, the city commission has been diligently reviewing the proposed city budget for the upcoming fiscal year, which begins on May 1st, 2025. This year's proposed budget totals 24.4 million. We are particularly pleased to announce that this budget marks the first year that the city commission has incorporated a comprehensive capital improvement plan, CIP. So this is the entire document that was incorporated in the budget. So if you've ever read the city budget before, you'll see this addition made to it, 204 pages. And it is the capital improvement plan, the first year that we've done it. Boyne City has never utilized such a vital planning tool before, and we are very confident in the significant financial success improvements that will result from this newly created CIP. The CIP will be continuously strengthened year over year and will serve as a critical instrument in ensuring future infrastructure needs, preventative maintenance, and necessary repairs are addressed proactively and in a timely manner, which will greatly reduce overall expenses. Furthermore, having a capital improvement plan in place will significantly enhance our ability to prepare for and strategically pursue funding opportunities such as grants for various projects and purchases, like $1 million fire truck that we're planning for. This year's budget proposal comes at a time of significant change at both the national and state levels. While the long-term impacts of these shifts are still uncertain, your city government is committed to a cautious and fiscally responsible approach to ensure the continued delivery of high-quality services to our community. The current city commission has been actively focused on strengthening the city's financial footing and strategically addressing long-term needs. Just key highlights of the proposed budget is as follows. Addressing infrastructure needs. The budget includes significant investments in our infrastructure, including major projects for the sanitary sewer system, road improvements, and the marina. These projects are often supported by grants and low-interest loans, maximizing the value of your local tax dollars. Commitment to road improvements. We are continuing our commitment to improve city streets with a significant contribution from the general fund dedicated to paving gravel roads. The first street slated for paving is Call Street. Marina enhancement. The budget allocates funds to complete and open the ongoing marina improvements to the public. That is concept 3 that has been approved. Water system investment plans are in place to replace water production well number 2, ensuring the reliability of our water infrastructure. Slight reduction in overall millage rate. We are pleased to report that the proposed combined city millage rate will decrease from 16.185 mils down to 15.90 mils for the coming fiscal year. This is achieved through a reduction in general operating millage rate, partially offset by a necessary increase in the debt payment millage rate for the city facilities, which remains lower than voter approved levels. The general operating millage rate is proposed to be at its lowest level in nearly 3 decades. And the overall rate is the lowest in a decade. Continued focus on efficiency. The city commission continues to work with the city staff to seek efficiencies and cost saving measures to ensure tax dollars are used effectively. Some adjustments and discussions from this year's budget work sessions are as follows. Police department, the patrol car replacement schedule was adjusted to align with the newly incorporated capital improvement plan. EMS, the city commission reviewed controllable expenses with the EMS director and supports a plan to reduce these expenses with neighboring townships. A plan of action for reimbursement from townships receiving subsidized EMS services was also reviewed and discussed. Fire department, funding for the capital improvement for a new fire truck was increased and new fees for false fire calls was implemented. Parks and Recreation, the city commission is pleased with the addition of the Parks and Recreation capital improvement plan and will continue to strengthen that plan. Exploring investment opportunities, the city commission carefully reviewed areas of opportunity to invest in certificate of deposits, CDs, and will be looking to invest in secure risk-free investments to help increase general fund revenue. operational staffing structure, the city commission held in-depth discussions regarding potential additional staff, including the possibility of an in-house mechanic and the restructuring or potential addition of our Parks and Recreation Department head. Overall, this budget reflects the city commission's dedication to responsible financial planning, strategic investments in our infrastructure, and a commitment to effectively serving the needs of our community. We are dedicated to being careful stewards of your tax dollars and ensuring Boyne City continues on a path of success and prosperity. The detailed budget document is available for your review on the city's website. There's also a copy of it down at the table next to the city administration office. Thank you for your continued support of Boyne City. Sincerely, Mayor Nemetchek. Any other commissioner like to add to that before we go through the actual public hearing and resolution? Really, any talking points on this year's budget process?
Yeah, I mean, I think, a couple of the big highlights that you touched on, Mayor, was the CIP plan was huge. We spent a lot of time on that. The staff spent a lot of time on that. The department heads themselves appreciated their input, and I think it's just going to make things that much better. And we can actually plan instead of the gun to the head situations that we've found ourselves in over the years. The goals, if you've seen even the Paisley report, we've got a lot of streets that need attention, and we've always loved building things in this town, but we don't like taking care of anything. And so having this in place, we're finally going to be able to start addressing these and taking measures that need to happen. And then again, the millage is a big deal. I mean, this commission has been from when the three of us got on here 3.5 years ago, and the two new commissioners to join us, it's been a very we've tried very hard to work on the millage rate for all the taxpayers. And it's your money. We don't need to take more of it than what we need, and B, we need to be good stewards of it, and we're working hard on being good stewards of it. The budget, thanks to Jessica and the rest of her staff, and again, all the department heads, it was a great working document, and I'm very excited that we're where we're at, because we're really gonna start watching these things. This year's proposed budget, it's 24 million. In normal years, it's more like about 14, 15, but we've added on the new sewer and water aspects. So that's carrying that budget up for the next few years. We're in a very decent, healthy position, but also part and part because we haven't been taking care of things. So a lot of those dollars are going to start getting spent down from the position that we're in. And so super excited about this budget, super excited that it's being put forth and saving the community, and we're going to have a great plan going forward. So
I'm sorry.
No, I said it's all.
This was my third budget session, one unofficially, and now my second as a commissioner. And just echoing what Marty's saying, I am the continuous improvement in since 2022 has been immense, and with very tenacious commissioners and insisting on some changes to be made and some things to be done. And the capital improvement plan, and that was a lot of hard work by Jessica and the other staff members. Yeah, huge. And so again, we'll improve on how we do that. And the other part of this obviously is the financial forecasting and planning that you've heard us all talk about. that we should be anticipating. When some of these are gonna fall in, and this is gonna get us there. So I think that's been great. We did 3 full days. It wasn't a day and a half or 2. It was 3 very, very thorough days. And I really appreciate the city administration and the department heads and all that they did. I think they're really warming to the process of being able to come in and share with us and talk about their concerns and talk about their futures, for their departments. So every year of the 3, every year we've gotten better at it. The CIP is huge. And obviously being able to take the millage down. So thanks.
Anything to add?
I couldn't have said it better myself, so. Well said, you guys.
Alrighty, so with that being said, I'm just gonna read through this memo real quick. The following items are being brought to the city commission for consideration in order to complete the budget and appropriations process for fiscal year ending 2025-2026. The city commission held 3 budget work sessions to review and discuss the fiscal year ending 2025-2026 Boyne City budget. During the budget work session, the commission met with various department heads to discuss the budget. After review, some changes were made and the budget presented today reflects those changes per the city commission's request. So first item on the list is A, the public hearing. It is necessary that a public hearing be held as required by a statutory regulation in order to hear citizen comments regarding the General Appropriations Act. This hearing will give citizens the opportunity to discuss the proposed fiscal year 2026 budget. So at this time, I'm going to open the floor up for a public hearing for public comment. If you have any comment or would like to add any additional points of conversation, just come to the podium, state your name, address, and Jessica will be taking time for 5 minutes. Anything electronically, Jessica?
It is not.
Alrighty, so I'm gonna close public comment and then we're just gonna roll right through this. First one up is gonna be B, the resolution adopting the general operating millage rate. What I'm gonna do, commissioners and the public, is I'm just gonna read through these resolutions, do a roll call and just move through these. So first resolution up is whereas the city of Boyne City, Charlevoix County, Michigan has approved $24,811,348 in operating expenses for all city funds, which includes prior year fund balances for the fiscal year 2025-2026 city budget. And whereas of this amount, $4,345,662 is to be raised by taxes for operation. Now therefore be it hereby resolved by the City Commission of the City of Boyne City, Charlevoix County, Michigan, that the City Commission does establish a City of Boyne City millage rate of 14.45 for operation. So I'm just gonna ask for a roll call.
Did I have a first and a second?
Or, well, I'll make a motion to pass the resolution as presented then.
Second.
Alrighty. Roll call, please, Jessica.
Nemecheck,
Aye.
Moody,
Aye.
Pritchard,
Aye.
Lassiter,
Aye.
motion carried.
Next, resolution up, whereas the city of Boyne City, Charlevoix County, Michigan has approved $479,625 in principal and interest expenses for the city facilities debt funds, which includes the prior year fund balance for the fiscal year 2025-2026 city budget. And whereas this amount, $433,285, is to be raised by taxes for principal and interest expenditures for the city facilities construction debt approved by the voters of the city of Boyne City in May 2015. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Commission of the City of Boyne City, Charlevoix County, Michigan, that the City Commission does hereby establish a City of Boyne City millage rate of 1.4500 for debt service. I'll make a motion to pass the resolution as presented.
Support.
Roll call, please, Jessica.
Moody,
Aye.
Pritchard,
Aye.
Lassiter,
Aye.
Nemecheck,
Aye.
motion carried.
We're ready. I am not going to read through these 3 pages of this resolution. What I'm going to touch on is basically total revenues. This is going to be page 135. Total revenues less transfers is $848,996. And page 136, I'm just gonna touch on the grand total city expenditures, which is $24,811,348. And I would just make a motion to pass this resolution as presented.
Question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Question of understanding, page 137, section 8. If we pass this resolution, all these sections are in play, correct?
Correct.
And so if we were to amend one of the sections, then we would have to redo this resolution at a future date.
We could pass changes on this resolution as amended, right? In a motion.
I believe so, yes.
So specifically, section 8.
Mhm.
It speaks of change orders, and it, as it currently reads, the city manager can process a change order of up to $10,000 per change orders. And the only limitation is that it needs to be in the scope of the existing contract.
Mhm.
And my proposal is that we put in language that says that the change order cannot exceed, the combination of change orders cannot exceed X% of the total project cost. And be up to 10K, but you follow where I'm going. And my concern is that you can do multiple change orders without regard to the size of the deal, the contract that's being in play.
I would support language in eliminating the possibility of stacking up to the 10,000, but you said percentage of what?
I'm saying that if there is that change may approve change orders on contracts approved originally by the city commission, not to exceed, and I'm not sure what the right percentage is, not to exceed X% of the original approved amount. And it can be 10K, but for example, if you've got $100,000 contract, today, as it reads, they're going to issue 3 change orders. And so what I'm proposing is that it be a percentage of the contract. Not to exceed.
The only concern I have that is derailing projects like the road construction project that came in way off. I mean, I would support the elimination of stacking change orders.
But I guess my question is, so we approve whatever, like a $5 million project. Then the limit is X% of that total of all the changes that could ever be accumulated.
Right.
It doesn't preclude him from proceeding. The only time that it would possibly slow something down is if the change order itself would have to come back to the commission, and that would be a 2-week delay potentially. Because basically you're authorizing, it would be, if you're authorizing that, and in that stage, if it exceeds X% of the total value of the contract.
It's coming back here anyhow.
Not the way this reads.
If it's over 10,000.
No,
If
you
it's-
could do 5 10,000s. You could do 100 10,000.
Yeah, and that's what I'm
Stacking them. I got it.
I would support not stacking them, but the only thing that I fear on that is for like, you know, COVID, when COVID happened, every project we went out for bid was a change order. And the percentage of the total contract is what I'm hung up on. I understand where you're coming from, and I would agree, you know, change order 1 for 10,000, change order 2 for 8,000, change order 3 for 7,000, change order 4 for 5,000. I agree with that. I would support a friendly amendment to the resolution to eliminate the stacking. It shouldn't say, you know, a commission up to the commission of a total of 10,000 per contract. Or
See, it's been my experience, particularly on bigger projects, when you're gonna run over a period of years.
Scope of the original contract.
The beauty of the percentage is that it's scaled to the size of the original award.
Mhm.
You know, and there could be,
What's a
Follow what I'm
reasonable
saying?
percent? What,
I'm sorry,
what's a reasonable percent then? What would be,
what are you comfortable with, 10, 15? I mean, that's the problem. You can have scope creep that we don't know about or that we've not budgeted for, so. If it's a percentage. That is, it's proportional to what's going on.
Yeah, no, I mean, I understand where you're going, but I don't believe that that's the way to cure that. I think the simple way is to eliminate the stacking and then, it has to be approved.
So stacking means what?
Well, stacking means taking the 10,
That you have a $10,000 change or just one, you have up to 10,000 per contract, so that he can do up to 10,000. Per
One time.
contract, one time.
Okay. I was just trying to keep bear in mind some of the bigger ones, because we've got some $1 million projects coming up.
Right.
So if you want to tighten it down, you're actually tightening it down, and I'm fine with that.
yeah, and it's
That's
not
fine
saying
with
that
that.
you're not gonna have change orders and you're not gonna have change
That's
orders
right.
that you're not gonna have to approve.
right.
disapprove.
So, so it's basically just adding may approve one change order,
Yeah, up to $10,000.
and all you have to do it is modify to add that one word,
Yep,
correct?
yep.
Okay. That's all I wanted to bring up. So I'll make a friendly amendment. It says contractual change orders, the city manager with the city clerk signed approval may approve one change order on contracts approved originally by the city commission.
Yep.
Of up to $10,000. For that change order.
I'm second that.
Do you have that all, Jessica?
Mhm.
Perfect. Alrighty, roll call.
Richard,
Aye.
Lassiter,
Aye.
Nemecheck,
Aye.
Moody,
Aye.
motion carried.
And the last resolution in front of us is whereas the city of Boyne City recognizes the need to provide user services to the public, and whereas the city of Boyne City is responsible for the efficient operation of its various departments and the costs incurred in providing such services, now therefore be it resolved that the city of Boyne City hereby adopts the Boyne City fee schedule as presented in appendix 15 of the May 1st, 2025 through April 30th, 2026 Boyne City budget. I'll make a motion to pass that resolution as presented. Support. Roll call.
Lassiter,
Aye.
Nemecheck.
Aye.
Moody,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
motion carried.
Thank you all for that. Moving on to 9B, last agenda item, memorial benches and tree policy amendment recommendation. Take us away, Doug.
Sounds good. Basically, this is just kind of change what we already have currently on the books. Parks and Rec approved this, my predecessor, Tim Foss, put this out, memorial bench tree policy situation. And we're just trying to get the wording of this changed a little bit, make it more user friendly. Essentially, we're just removing some items that were on there. As you can see on this, tree and landscapes, basically, current policy was approved by the commission on August of 2019. The proposed amendment has been made to remove verbiage related to landscape rocks or other types of memorials, leaving benches and trees as the remaining options for the donated memorials within the city parks. So.
Thanks, sir. Alrighty, I'm glad we have two representatives from the Parks and Rec Commission here. Any public comment before we go to board deliberation? Alrighty, I'm going to board deliberation. I want Sandy, Moody, starting with you, Commissioner Lassiter.
I'm good with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doug, the only question I have is who's requesting the proposed amendments and why are they requesting the proposed amendments? Because they just, and from my understanding, Mike was probably the chair of the Parks and Rec Commission when he advocated in 2019 for this policy to be established with that language in there?
I couldn't say.
Okay.
I wasn't here, so.
Alrighty, I'll go to Mike and Pete then. Can you guys, who's requesting the proposed, why the policy change?
The policy was looking at the maintenance problems around the stones.
Okay,
And it was considered putting a number of stones up where the lawnmowers have to go was not a very good idea.
okay.
So we wanted to remove that.
Benches are easier to mow around? Okay. Alrighty. Alrighty, that's the only question I have. Commissioner Woody?
Yeah, no, I figured that probably was the reasoning and, yeah, I think it's a great plan. But I love all the benches that we've been able to get because of the memorials and stuff and the trees as well. So, great job. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Commissioner Pritchard?
My usual penchant for process. I would appreciate it if and I understood the reason for the rocks, but I would appreciate it if we start including a rev number. Because if you, to our procedures or whatever else, a revision number, because as you go through this, if somebody picks up something that they don't look to the bottom, they're not gonna know. So, in other worlds, there's actually a page for revisions, and it shows the date and the reason, and the document actually gets a hyphen of 1, 2, or whatever. So that's a simple suggestion.
Okay.
I was curious that it refers to an attachment of the cost schedule, and I just wondered why it's not included in here.
I was not able to find that, would be the honest answer to that, cost schedule. This document I was able to find, it took me some time of being the director of Water, Sewer and Public Works, also Parks and Rec. It took me some time to find this document, and then I found it. And then I said, well, that's great, they have a policy. After I found this document, I had already had 2 benches installed. Not just ordered, installed, okay? So I was like, oh, great, there's a policy, maybe we should follow this. So then I looked into the policy, met, and just talked with the Parks and Rec Board, and we said we wanted to clean it up. So we basically said we had people at that time requesting rocks, believe it or not. And that idea kind of was brought up, and then it was said, no, maybe we should remove rocks from this. And also, we're running out of landscape. If you look at the waterfront out here, there's way too many benches, and that's a problem. So now the new policy will allow for 3 spots on 1 bench. This next bench we order. I will give you a fee schedule. Obviously, the price is going to change a little bit, because now we're going to have 3 slots available for 1 bench, increasing the state and also increasing the opportunity for revenue. Because the people will still pay, the residents or whoever, non-residents who want to donate are still going to pay that fee to have that plaque put on that bench. So
I'm just kind of bridging off of Marty's point that we put stuff in and then don't allow for the maintenance, and there was a very thoughtful effort made here. I don't know if it would be in the agenda minutes from this 2019 timeframe of a full document, maybe. If we didn't go back in the city archives, but I think it's something, we actually, because of that, what that tells me is that we've not been charging for the installation and maintenance.
that would not be correct.
No, good.
I said, again, I said I put in 2 benches. I was the point person who did that, myself and this former city manager. We just kind of discussed, hey, where can we put these? Let's do it. And then we were kind of a throughway for the person who did the donation. I told that person to make the check out to the landscape forms who we get our benches through. And that's what we did. So
Are we saying the same thing? The bench X, they're donating, they're paying for a bench.
correct.
Then there's an adder.
Yes, for the concrete slab, a
For
little bit extra.
the slab and future maintenance.
Correct.
Okay. So if that's, because that's the way the application process reads.
Yeah.
And so they know upfront, and it's a one-time cost, and we're all made whole in
Yeah.
that process. All right. And it talks about an existing plan on page 146.
Yeah, that's the only other question I have.
It talks as though
A site plan.
there's knowledge of where Parks and Recs in each park would want to accommodate those.
Yes,
Okay,
Has that plan been established?
there has been now, yes, through the Parks and Rec Committee.
When was that established?
Last year.
Okay, because right, what she's referring to, and I highlighted, and I have the question right here. Conklin also asked if we have a site plan. Foss stated that is a task to be completed, and this was in 2019. So we completed that task in 2023. Perfect. And so when you were referring to the former city manager and you worked with him to install those two other benches, he did not refer to the site plan and or policy
At
established.
that
in
point,
2000.
there was not a site plan.
There was not a site plan?
Correct.
Yeah, sorry, 24. And so it took us 5 years to develop a site plan. And when you had two more requests to come in 2024 and you corresponded with the city manager and found those locations, you and the former city manager did not utilize the policy established in 2019?
I did not know there was a policy at that point.
You didn't
when I
inform me
was-
there was one?
Well, I didn't
Perfect.
really ask. I kind of found it on my own, so.
Okay. Just double checking.
Yeah.
one last thing and then I'll yield. Page 147. It's removal and relocation. The wording says it reserves the right to remove and or relocate donated elements and their associated donation plaques. But it then qualifies the only conditions that, at least in, not that there's a binding contract with donors, but they certainly have some expectations. And we limit it to site safety, maintenance, or construction activities. Is that
Yes.
sufficient?
In my opinion, it is.
Yeah, an example of all these pictures out there, you're doing work on the marina. And you wanna put something right there and there's a bench. Really looking at moving that bench 5 feet, 6 feet, or 10 feet away from that. So it's not relocating them from the original spot. It's relocating them to accommodate the change in that spot.
So where I'm coming from, and I understand that, you've covered that, but where I'm coming from is in the future, as our land use and your master and your plan changes, it may require relocation. It's just a nitty natty, but just something to think about is that there are potentially other conditions that are strictly for our reasons, not just these. You could use construction, I suppose. So this is great. So that's it. That's what I got.
Alrighty, if there is nothing else, I'll just make a motion that the city commission approve the Parks and Recreation Commission's recommendation and approve the proposed amendments to policy and procedure number PW 001 memorial benches, trees and landscape rocks as presented. Support.
With, excuse me, friendly amendment with revision date and.
Yeah, we could put a revision date on there for sure.
Okay, it's a matter of
I'll
routine.
include the revision dates in that as well, part of that.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Roll call please, Jessica.
Nemecheck,
Aye.
Moody,
Aye.
Pritchard,
Aye.
Lassiter.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So that brings us to the last agenda item. 10, good of the order. Anyone have anything for good of the order? I got a few things, but I'll let the rest of y'all go first.
Oh, thank you. And I guess, you know, it may be a question for Doug and Kevin and obviously, you know, Scott's retired. It's, they have the department heads here. I wonder, is it necessary? And that's been general practice for a long time. But if they don't have something on the agenda to necessarily that they need to weigh in on or explain, I'm not sure how you guys would feel about, you know, excusing them necessarily for coming to every meeting. It's, these guys work long days and sometimes they're here, you know, 3, 4, 5 more hours on top of that.
Yeah, I'm in full support. Do you guys attend when you don't have agenda items? Do you?
Kevin does.
Well, you're
too.
usually on the agenda.
I guess, do you do that out of like, because for example, Dennis isn't here regularly. director, the chief, for the fire department, EMS director Brenda, she's not here regularly. Is it that you're doing it out of personal interest, or is it you were told that it's a requirement?
Oh,
Okay.
Well, I
Okay.
believe it is established as a requirement that staff heads are to attend meetings.
And they're just, the administration, I guess, wasn't consistent in holding that expectation then? Because like I said, you're one director that I see consistently. I don't see all directors consistently.
I'm on the agenda a lot too.
Yeah, message time.
Scott was a regular attendee
Yep.
and
I mean, I support what you're saying. Yes, they work long hours. If there's not a need for them to be here. I mean, I know sometimes conversations pop up, like even in good of the order, but to sit here, we're notorious for the length of our meetings. I'm happy that it's before 9 PM still right now. So absolutely, I support what Commissioner Lassiter is communicating.
Well, go to the order, there shouldn't be any questions raised. Anyway,
Right.
anyway.
So. Anyone else support that?
Oh, yeah. no
Okay.
problem.
I would prefer that it be inclusive of checking the agenda to assure that there isn't a discussion, whether it's directly in their department or would impact their department.
Right.
That they use their judgment, but that they own the responsibility of taking a look and considering.
Well, again, so back up just a second. So once again, we're supposed to be flying here. This is flying here. And, so
Gotcha.
when there's somebody sitting in the seat, this isn't even really our discussion. Okay, as far as, whether they're, whether they should be here or not should be here. That really is
Fair enough.
is not our direction. I agree that I don't have a problem with it. Again, Doug's on it most of the time. Dennis has always been here when, he needs to be.
Right.
So that's the way I see that. So I would say it's fine. It's fine to throw it out there. I'd say coming to a theater near you, that's
Right.
to be discussed at a different date, quite frankly, as far as, this is what we're doing now. I think that needs to be discussed with the
new guy.
The new
Or
guy.
woman.
Yep. Interim new and interim long.
Anyone else have anything for good of the order?
Just a question about next steps with regard to the master plan.
I have no idea. I think we have to consult with, well, I mean, I don't know next steps as far as what we should do. I think we have to consult with Matt and get him involved and have him kind of lead us into what our next appropriate steps are.
He has been contacted. I shared with you the copy of the email and the documents. Then there's a couple levels to it. One is how to handle the termination letter. That's over there. But I'm also out of the, well, and Kyle's not here to help, but the proceeding with getting a master plan concluded.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd not privy to any of the conversations that Kyle's been having or any of the others. So that's what I'm concerned about. Matt made the comment very quickly, city attorney, to get a hold of the other supplier and see if they'd be interested in picking it up. So this is concern for me because it's sitting out there.
I mean, I would support that. And we could maybe get that consensus tonight. Jessica, could you reach out to, if we establish a consensus, reach out to McKinnon is the other firm that gave us a proposal and asked if they would even have an interest in picking up where the other contractor potentially left off and or be engaged in services on that master plan.
Well, that and the main reason that, I believe that it was still in Matt's, in Matt's court was where we stand on
Funding.
yes, funding, repercussion, all the above.
Yep.
So that's why I don't want to move on anything without having him, tell us to do that.
Would you,
Cause I guess I wouldn't want to even go as far as what you're suggesting, because does that, negate anything? Yeah, I guess that needs to be, that needs to be an answer from the attorney, I would say.
okay,
Just a point of clarification.
So he had the big picture, and that's kind
Yeah.
of what he came back with, and part of the conversation was, and maybe Jessica, have we paid out 95% of the bill? Because they were billing monthly.
We've paid them what grant funding we've received for it, so. What that percentage is, I don't know.
Well, the grant funding was 40-some thousand, and the city was, the 3/4, and the city was another 14, so they just got put together.
Yeah,
So
I'd
there's a
have to
total,
research it, to tell you an accurate number or percentage would have to be researched.
because they were gonna bill fixed, it was a fixed price, and it was gonna be billed in monthly installments, and we've been at it for a while. So the feeling, going back to your point, Marty, there may not be any funds left, and that there will be limited leverage or interest in BRI doing anything. Apparently Matt has been working with Kyle, I think, on this, and that's why he said.
I know it's not.
And that's why he said what he said about McKenna.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay.
That's his speculation.
Yeah.
But I
No,
feel,
if he said go, then go. I mean,
It's not-
I don't think it's us engaging with them. It's just us asking if they even have an interest. And I don't think that's gonna restrict or tie our hands in any way. It's just asking a question. It
Well-
can be a, yeah, we have an interest, or no, we don't have an interest. And then we just hit pause there until we get direction from the attorney, more direction.
you're good with that?
Okay. Anything else?
Well, I'll wait.
Okay, the only other two things I have for good of the order is just a letter from Mr. Wright. I think all of us commissioners did
yay.
receive that letter. I had a conversation with Mr. Wright the other day after I received the letter. I think I wrote down the date that we talked, interested. It was last week. It was before the storm. It was either Friday or Thursday last week. I called and had a conversation with Mr. Wright. And the conversation that I had with him, again, I just want to summarize that he's here. He can, add to it if I miss any parts of the summary, but basically conversation I had with him was really the city commission is in a position to hire and fire two individuals, and that is the city manager and the city attorney. I appreciate the letter. I told him, thank you for the letter. Thank you for expressing the interest. It helps us in moving forward in the aspect of when we do get an interim or a permanent city manager to be able to pass off this letter of interest in that conversation. I don't think it's within our scope or ability, restricted by city charter to go through the process of picking, selecting, and interviewing and hiring an airport manager. From a conversation that I've had with Matt, that's kind of what I talked to him about, to say, hey, please don't let your interest die and not getting a response from us. It's just, we're kind of in a position not being able to respond in a way that I think he would like us to. But I did let him know that we're going to take the letter, pass it on to the interim individual and or permanent individual when the time comes, and move forward with it there at that point in time. So that's kind of the conversation I had with Mr. Wright. Anyone? Yeah, go ahead.
He and I had spoken right after I got on commission, and that's why you heard me lobbying in budget meetings to consider that we ought to have funding potentially for a part-time person for that. We also have vacancies on the board now, and that
Who's been there?
might be a good way back if that were to interest you. But we're kind of hamstrung for now.
Okay. And the only other thing is just the temporal thing, just letting the commission know. Mandy reached out to me, it was sometime last week in the middle of all the chaos. It was an email that she sent out to me. I gave her a direct call. It was about a 5-minute conversation of, hey, sorry that things kind of died. I asked her what her timeline was. She told me that they're looking to present an offer to the city in the next 3 to 4 weeks. She talked about working with their contractor, getting estimations and all of that. I said, well, I can help you from 2 different aspects. I can connect you with the commissioner liaison who sits on the LDFA and EDC board. Connected her with Commissioner Pritchard, and in that conversation, she also said that she was talking with Kyle and trying to help, and Kyle was trying to help them in identifying sources of grant funding, so to speak, potentially through MEDC, so on and so forth. I let her know Kyle's kind of new in his role. We don't have a planning and zoning director right now. And I connected her with Jessica LeVay, who is a grant specialist with the NLEA, thinking that would be a better connection and resource for her and her company to utilize and trying to find some MEDC and grant funding. So that connection was made last week as well. I'll let Commissioner Pritchard add to that however she'd like, because I know she did have a connection with Mandy, and I think they just met today. I watched a brief portion of their meeting today on Zoom.
Yeah, I met with Carl Darian and Mandy just to explain where we're at. Basically, it was a repetition of what Tim covered. And I've been trying to get the special meeting session today. I think the outtake of today is just exactly what was said, was that and she thinks now it's going to be 3 weeks, possibly 4, that they will have a builder's estimate and they will be coming to us with a price. So what had been in place before was agreed to by the board was a negotiating position and some parameters that had been given. So basically, the outtake of today's meeting is the LDFA is in a holding pattern until the proposal comes in, and if a special session needs to be called to deal with it at that time, then there will be.
Okay. That's all I have.
Oh, the other takeaway is that the communications will be directed to Jessica as the point person and when the plans come in or anything else.
Okay. Does that work for you, Jessica? Okay.
Which will then do the normal distribution, but.
Yes, sir.
I'd love to go back. Just so you guys know.
Okay. Can you do me a favor, Mr. Wright? Tomorrow or whenever you're available, could you come down to City Hall and get an application and just fill that out? And then we can take you into consideration. Perfect. That's all I had for good of the order. Anyone else have anything else before moving on to announcements? Alrighty. Moving on to announcements, the city offices will be closing at 11:30 a.m. on Friday, April 18th, 2025, in observance of Good Friday. The next regular city commission meeting is scheduled for April 22nd, 2025 at 12 p.m. Potentially next week, we will have a interviewing meeting with the city commission. Well, we will be having, potentially if the candidate's availability is there.
Just be posted.
Yep, and that will be posted next week. So with that being said, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
One more announcement, and it's a civic announcement. The art group is having an open house, I believe, on Friday with their new spring exhibit. And it's at 5:30, I believe. So there's another.
Is that the one upstairs?
The art
Like,
group,
outline
yep,
house? Yeah.
yep.
Okay.
And then the Business Expo, of course, next week.
Perfect.
That's it.
Alrighty, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Thank you, everyone.
I'm not gonna know how to